you do, ladies and gentlemen? We're back, big time. This is about your wrestling. This is Big Tyme Rants, episode 102. And boy, oh boy, is the wrestling world coming unglued as we woke up this morning to find out that Tony Khan and Shane McMahon, yes, Shane McMahon, had talks at an airport in Texas. What's this mean? How's this all going to play out? Could we see a McMahon at AEW? There's a lot to talk about and a lot to break down in this photograph that's circulating. But let's talk about it. Coming from Ringside News, Tony Khan, strategic meeting with Shane McMahon on potential ventures. What is it all about? And Ringside News reports, AEW CEO Tony Khan recently had a private meeting with Shane McMahon, sparking speculation about potential collaborations. This meeting took place on Monday, this past Monday, July 29th, at an office at a private Arlington airport. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful confirmed the meeting, reporting Khan and McMahon discussed possibilities moving forward, and it appears to be their first meeting, as Khan has been open to speaking with Shane McMahon, but had not previously had the opportunity. Khan has expressed a willingness to work with Shane McMahon, making it clear in discussions that he was open to the idea. According to Sapp, Khan has been receptive to using McMahon in AEW for several weeks. However, those involved in AEW were not aware of the specific meeting. Publicly, Tony Khan has spoken favorably of Shane McMahon in a recent interview on the Maggie and Perloff show. Khan mentioned that Shane McMahon was welcome to stop by anytime. He's a really nice guy. Additionally, Khan told Sports Illustrated that he has a lot of respect for Shane McMahon as an executive and a professional wrestler, and that he is always welcome in AEW. Shane, of course, has been absent from WrestleMania, from WWE since WrestleMania 39, where he suffered a quad injury during a match against The Miz. It was reported in June of 2024 that Shane McMahon was no longer under any contract with WWE. And, of course, the pictures are circulating of a meeting between Tony Khan and Shane McMahon. Now, what are the internal reactions to Shane McMahon taking a meeting with Tony Khan? Sticking with Ringside News. You never know what can happen in the world of professional wrestling. AEW has attracted many former WWE stars, but they might be close to bringing in Shane McMahon. Yes, AEW CEO Tony Khan recently had a private meeting with Shane McMahon, sparking speculation about a potential collaboration. Again, this meeting took place on Monday, July 29th, this past Monday, at an Austin airport. There had been a lot of talks back and forth, and Wrestling Votes has now reported an internal reaction to Shane McMahon taking this meeting. A WWE employee who has ties with Shane McMahon has said that they aren't surprised by this meeting because Shane McMahon is a very smart man. And they quote it as asked a long time WWE employee friendly to Shane McMahon for the thoughts on the Tony Khan picture. The response, Shane's a smart man as they come. Taking a preliminary meeting doesn't surprise anyone here. We'll have to wait and see if Tony Khan and Shane O'Mac ever come to any sort of deal. It could be Khan O'Man and Shane O'Mac working together. Of course, at 54, Shane McMahon might not want to be a wrestler. He was injured during his last bout at WrestleMania, but anything's possible, and we could see anything coming out of the future with an agreement between Shane McMahon and Tony Khan. What do you think? What do you feel about this? How do you think this is going to go? Could Shane McMahon bring something to Tony Khan's company that is missing? Is Shane McMahon going to be the master key? It's going to be very interesting in what's going to happen in the future, but we know Tony Khan and Shane McMahon have now talked. It's going to be very interesting what we see next and how it all plays out, and what happens from here going forward. It's going to be very, very interesting how all these play out in the future. In other news, AEW Dynamite tonight will take place. And we have confirmed matches and information about tonight's show on July 31st. AEW Dynamite will hail from Greensville, South Carolina, taking off at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on TBS. Will Ospreay will test in his endurance and strength in the singles match against a formidable monster Lance Archer, who we've not seen much on Dynamite, but we have known that he's been wrestling on Collision and Rampage a lot more, and some in Ring of Honor, but he's going to show up tonight. Will MJF be there? Will he show up? It's expected to see what's going on. It's Will Ospreay carried out the international title after MJF threw it in the title and announced the AEW American title. Bryan Danielson will make a live appearance to discuss his status with AEW, especially with the AEW All-In pay-per-view in the coming month, coming at the end of August. Although Danielson is scheduled to face George Strickland for the AEW World Championship, his contract is set to expire before the event. Supposedly set to expire for tomorrow. Will Nightingale will defend the CMLL World Women's Championship against her rival Chris Statlander in a single match on Dynamite. Mariah May recently turned on her friend and mentor, Timeless Tony Storm, after winning the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Both will face off for the women's world title at All In, with the rivalry intensifying each week. Mariah May will be interviewed by Renee Paquette this week. Also, the conglomeration of Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, and Ishii will take on the Beast Mortis, Roderick Strong, and Roosh. And we also get to see Hangman Adam Page take on Darby Allin in a match. So a lot going on tonight, and a lot of interesting speculation on the status of Brian Danielson, as he's come out and announced his contract ends on August 1st, which is tomorrow, and before All In. So we will find out more information. Of course, he's been told by doctors not to wrestle until All In if he wrestles. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens tonight. The Rock making the news today. The Rock accused of stiffing the Army in the UFL deal. Coming from Ringside News, The Rock has faced several controversies recently, with WWE fans viewing him as someone who calls his own shots. Now, as a member of the WWE Board of Directors, he is at the center of a new controversy involving his pro football league and the U.S. Army. And as a U.S. Army vet, I definitely am very interested in what's going to be talked about here. And if The Rock stiffed the Army, which just doesn't make sense to me, I might have some issues. I am a U.S. Army veteran. According to military.com, and a well-received military website, military.com, the Army invested $11 million in The Rock's UFL football league to boost enlistment numbers. However, internal documents and emails reviewed by the site indicate that the investment did not yield any new recruits and may have even hindered recruitment efforts. An agreement required The Rock to serve as a brand ambassador for the Army, posting a specific number of Army-related messages on his social media accounts. However, the Army claims he did not meet this obligation, having only made 2 posts instead of the 5 that were expected, each valued at $1 million. The United States Army is experiencing regret over an $11 million marketing deal with the UFL. The investment intended to boost enlistment numbers may have had the opposite effect. We will have to see if The Rock does anything to make things right with the Army, but apparently he didn't follow through on this deal. The Army is now seeking to recover $6 million from the UFL. A spokesperson for the Army stated that they are working with the UFL to determine the final cost. Despite this, the UFL and The Rock's publicists have not responded to requests for comments. Dave Butler, a spokesman for George, Colonel Dave Butler, a spokesman for George, told military.com in a statement. He said that it's unfortunate and this deal is not what they expected from the Jumanji star. And I quote, in terms of The Rock, it's unfortunate he was pulled away at the time when we expected him to be present with us to create content for his social media channels. But we're working with the UFL to rebalance that contract. The Rock remains a good partner to the U.S. Army. The Army staff has initially warned against the partnership, citing high financial costs and low viewership, but the deal was ultimately approved by General Randy George, the Army Chief of Staff. The internal report was also highlighted communication issues with the UFL and a lack of confidence in the future deals with the league. As a result, the Army is now seeking to recover $6 million in their investment. The deal also included UFL players wearing Army branding during games. Neither the United Football League or Johnson's publicists have responded to requests for comments. Laura De Francisco, a spokesperson for the Army's marketing team, stated they are working with the UFL to determine the final cost. So we're going to have to keep our eyes out what's going on with the U.S. Army, The Rock, the UFL, and all the dirty details there. So hopefully The Rock does the right thing. I'm a proud U.S. Army vet. So it does get me wondering what's going on. And that is kind of the information that's going on there. Lots of news, lots of rumors. Shane McMahon, possibly All Elite, could very well happen. The Rock there, we talked about that in detail. Bryan Danielson is going to be making a big statement tonight on Dynamite. What is his future with AEW? What is the story going to be there? But let's talk about a released AEW superstar who arrived in Orlando ahead of last night's NXT Great American Bash, which was a great episode. Very entertaining. The Joe Henry concert definitely was fun to watch. Of course, Gallus eventually interrupted and beat down Joe Henry. So we'll have to see what happens if Gallus and Joe Henry in their future endeavors in NXT and TNA. This crossover looking better each and every time. Anyways, released AEW star arrives in Orlando ahead of the NXT Great American Bash. Earlier this year, the unexpected release of several superstars from the AEW roster shocked quite few fans for good reason. Those included Jose, the assistant, and now it appears he is in Orlando ahead of NXT's Great American Bash tonight or last night. During his time with Tony Khan's promotion, Joe, the assistant, managed La Fasci LFI and worked with talents like Andrade and Rouge. Although he had been with the company since 2021, he was released in April of this year. Earlier this week, Joe, the assistant, dropped a massive tease about his next pro wrestling venture as he teased making his way to NXT soon. The fans didn't know how soon that would be. Not Joe. Why am I saying it's Joe? It's Jose. Jose, the assistant. I don't know why I'm saying Joe. Excuse me. Jose, the assistant, took to Twitter today and tweeted that he's currently in Orlando and stated that the weather in Orlando is very nice today. It is to be noted that NXT Great American Bash will be taking place in the WWE Performance Center in Orlando. With Stephanie Vancouver having already made her in-ring debut in WWE this month, perhaps fans might get to see Jose, the assistant, being paired up with Valcour, serving as her manager since Valcour will be debuting in NXT. We'll have to see what happens with Jose, the assistant. And if you're watching and see, you know nothing, honestly. He did not play any aspect, as I recall, in that. Any big news there regarding NXT, but we'll have to wait and see what is happening in the future with that. Goldberg making a lot of news as Goldberg was slated. He talked to Sting and was slated to possibly do something with AEW, and it all fell through. And a lot of things have come out with Goldberg, and one of the big things is Goldberg calls Tony Khan a male version of Dixie Carter, something I think that's been said on this channel before. Anyways, Goldberg's status as a free agent following the expiration of his WWE contract has sparked considerable speculation among wrestling fans, why many believe he might make a move to AEW. Goldberg previously made it clear he wasn't interested in joining AEW. In fact, Goldberg has now called Tony Khan the male version of Dixie Carter. Despite fan excitement, Goldberg's anticipation debut All In last year never came to fruition. His decision to steer clear of AEW surprised many, especially considering his recent criticism of the company, labeling it as too cheesy for his liking. While speaking with Chris Van Vliet, Goldberg talked about why talks with Tony Khan did not progress further. He shared his perspective on the company and noted that why he doesn't watch the show regularly, he can only judge based on clips. Tony Khan reminds him of a Dixie Carter in male version. The Hall of Famer would then go on to mention that this comparison could be either positive or negative, but it's a different overall feel. Reflects a different overall feel. And I quote, I just think we have a different perspective on it. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to really pass judgment on their product because I don't watch it. I see clips of it, and it's hard to give a rational breakdown of how they are if I don't really watch it, so I don't really know. He, meaning Tony Khan, reminds me of Dixie Carter, but a male version. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but it reminds me of that scenario. It's just a different feel. It's just different. So, will we see Tony Khan and Goldberg ever get themselves to be able to work together? Will we ever see Goldberg in an AEW ring? It is all up to see. Could Goldberg return to WWE and ever get that retirement match? It is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Real quick, let's talk about Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia was taken out by MJF, and Daniel Garcia, coming from Ringside News, we have this on him. This is coming from Ringside News. Daniel Garcia faced a major challenge as he aimed to win the AEW International Championship from Will Ospreay. He fell short and then was brutally attacked by MJF earlier this month. The reason for Garcia being written off TV has now been revealed. At the end of the July 3rd edition of AEW special event Beach Break, MJF made a surprise return that shocked fans. He appeared in the ring ringside to support Daniel Garcia in the AEW International Championship match against Will Ospreay. The match was intense, with both Garcia and Ospreay putting on a great show. Even though Garcia fought hard, Ospreay managed to keep his championship and pick up the win. After the match, Ospreay showed respect to Garcia, but things took a dramatic turn when MJF came in the ring, and instead of congratulating Garcia, MJF brutally attacked him, leaving him bloody, even knocked out. in the center of the ring. The show ended with Garcia being taken out on the stretcher as MJF left for the audience. And while speaking with Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez noted that Daniel Garcia was written off of AEW television by MJF as a precaution in case Garcia decides not to re-sign with the company when his contract expires. Alvarez explains that the angle was set up knowing Garcia might not return, but if he does come back, there is a potential storyline feud with MJF. Alvarez added that Garcia has been contemplating his future and has mentioned to others that he was considering his options, but it's not certain whether Garcia will return or leave. The storyline departure was part of the plan due to the uncertainty surrounding his contract. What do you think of Daniel Garcia? Do you want to see Daniel Garcia, the Dancing Queen, as I name him, come back to AEW, or would you like to see him jump ships? Would you like to see him go to maybe a TNA, or would you like to see him in WWE? We have to talk about all that and see how that all comes together. We'll have to see what happens for the future. Daniel Garcia is getting taken serious in the world of professional wrestling once again. Will that be in AEW? Will that be in WWE? Will that be in TNA? Will that be in GCW? Will that be somewhere else in the world of wrestling? Maybe it'll be in New Japan. Daniel Garcia's got a lot of talent, and he's got a great character that can really be built on. He just needs to be fine-tuned. I think there's an option there and an opportunity. I love to see him in WWE, especially on NXT, where he could grow and shine bright. Can we talk about Mone? Yes, Mercedes Mone set sights on wrestling at the 2024 Paris Olympics. Does she not understand they're already going on? Who knows? But anyways, coming from inside news, Mercedes Mone has earned the right to call herself one of the greatest women's wrestlers in the history of professional wrestling. That's a bold opinion, but that's up to everybody who wants to make that opinion. Is she a great wrestler? It depends on where she is. Anyways, the CEO has touched new heights of success since arriving at AEW since last March. I don't know what those heights are. I need more clarification. When you write stuff about all the heights she's reached, I don't see heights. But anyways, now what's all in at perhaps the biggest stage in the world of sports? Yes, the CEO of women's wrestling, the self-proclaimed CEO of women's wrestling, took to X to reflect on the events that transpired with the onset of the 2024 Paris Olympics, and Mercedes acknowledged her cousin Snoop Dogg and popular musician Flavor Flav's involvement in the Olympics, being credited as two of the biggest hype men for Team USA, and also hearing the NFL player Jason Kelce was the new face of the USA Rugby. Considering all this, Mercedes Mone expressed her interest in participating in women's wrestling competition at the Olympic Games to show her the world, to show her the world how it is done when it came to wrestling. And she tweeted, and I quote, "First I see my cousin at Snoop Dogg putting in work at NBC Olympics. Then at Flavor Flav pulls out a whole sponsorship, and now I hear at Jason Kelce's a new face at USA Rugby. I want in, gonna show you all how it really done. Hashtag women's wrestling, hashtag partnership in Paris." While Mercedes Mone would not be able to make it to Team USA this year as the Olympic Games are already underway, she has another big match coming up in Wimbledon. Anyways, Mercedes Mone is going to face Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, at All In later in August. Should be a great match, but do you see Mercedes Mone in the actual Women's Olympic? Did you see Mercedes Mone doing actual women's wrestling? I think that's a story all in itself. It could be very, very interesting. And of course, that's on all the news that Mercedes Mone is shaking and making, as it is now being claimed that Mercedes Mone claims the credit for the photo of Tony Khan and Shane McMahon's meeting. Coming from Ringside News, Mercedes Mone's arrival in AEW has significantly reshaped the promotion's landscape, and she's obviously part of the many important meetings in AEW. In fact, she has taken credit for taking the photo of Tony Khan and Shane McMahon's meeting recently. Earlier this year, Mercedes Mone confirmed that she had met up with Shane McMahon recently by boarding their respective flights, but she didn't disclose what they talked about. AEW CEO Tony Khan recently had a private meeting with Shane McMahon as of Monday, leading to speculation about a possible collaboration. During this discussion, Khan and McMahon explored possibilities moving forward. This seems to be the first meeting as Khan has expressed interest in speaking with Shane McMahon before, but had not had the chance. A photo of Tony Khan and Shane McMahon has made its way around the internet world, around the wrestling world, out in the IWC. And Mercedes Mone took to Twitter to comment on Tony Khan and Shane McMahon meeting, as she claimed credit for taking the photo in the first place, making it clear she was with them at the time of the meeting. And she quotes, Laugh out loud. I took that pick. So Mercedes Moné, deep in the middle of all this connecting and getting people together. It's very, very interesting. We'll have to wait and see what's going on, what role Mercedes Moné will play in all of this. But it's very, very interesting what we're seeing and what we're hearing. Mercedes Moné, shaking up the wrestling world. Will she be the key that brings Shane McMahon into AEW? Will it be as a wrestler, or will it be somebody that's going to help AEW steer the ship in a direction that might be able to be a competitive angle with WWE? Will Shane McMahon be a key? I don't know. Shane McMahon's last stories and ventures with WWE did not seem to go according to plan. So I don't know if he's that great of an asset. He is an asset nonetheless. Just depends on what role they let him play in. Speaking of AEW, what is the intentions behind the new American Championship? Well, those have been revealed according to Ringside News. AEW has a lot of things in motion as they head towards All In on August 25th. They have just under a month before the big show in Wembley Stadium. But one marquee match is already booked. One match is already booked. MJF recently beat Will Ospreay for the international title. And then on Dynamite 250 at that. Then the very next week, he dropped the international title in the trash can and debuted a new belt, the American title. Those plans were in motion for a while as Tony Khan stuck with his creative vision. MJF and Will Ospreay feuded at a new aspect with the debut of the American title on the July 24th episode of AEW Dynamite. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reported that after winning the international title, Ospreay suggested putting over Swerve Strickland at Forbidden Door to avoid speculation about a match at All In. This suggestion was due to Ospreay's creative plans for a match against MJF at All In, which had been in place for months. There was reportedly uncertainty about whether the full 1 hour match was planned from the start, as discussions took place in the weeks leading up to it. However, plans for Ospreay and MJF to feud throughout the summer, culminating at All In, were established long before MJF's return to AEW. It's also reported that belief within AEW is that the introduction of the American Championship was a temporary move to increase heat on MJF ahead of All In at Wembley. The goal is for the International Championship to continue to elevate its status. We'll have to wait and see how AEW continues down the road at All In. This will be Will Ospreay's big chance to recapture his title at Wembley Stadium. He wanted a big match out of the situation, and it looks like he's got one. The MJF Will Ospreay rematch for the international and American titles feels like they're pulling a page out of New Japan Pro Wrestling's book. We'll have to wait and see how these titles happen. Now that they got an American title and an international title, will these two be blended back together? Will they keep the American title around just to have another title in AEW? This could be bad for business. We will wait and see. Finally, CM Punk. CM Punk wants to talk about Larry, his dog, and how he's banned from wrestling. Drew McIntyre intensified his feud, and this comes from Ringside News. Drew McIntyre intensified his feud with CM Punk by stealing a homemade bracelet from Punk's wrist. Although the bracelet was only worth a few dollars, its sentiment value was significant. It had the names of Punk's wife, AJ Mendez, or April Mendez, or AJ Lee, as the wrestling world will know her, and his dog, Larry. Fans are fond of both Larry and AJ and like to see all three of them on WWE television at some point. However, Punk is unsure if Larry will ever get an invite to a wrestling event. CM Punk's dog, Larry, has been referenced on a WWE television during Punk's feud with Drew McIntyre, who stole Punk's bracelet with the name Larry and AJ Lee on it. Larry has also received official WWE merchandise. During an appearance at San Diego's Comic-Con, fan asked Punk when Larry might be on WWE television. Punk responded that he isn't sure Larry will make a cameo. After all, he may be banned for pro wrestling shows at this point. Punk went on to say, I don't know. He's not allowed at shows anymore because of the, well, we'll see. We'll see. I wish he did sign a Legends deal. We're working on it. I know there's a lot of chatter in the zeitgeist about Larry's contractual status. Of course, we all know Larry attended AEW All Out 2022, the night of the infamous backstage altercation brawl out between CM Punk, Ace Steel, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega. And during the incident, Larry was allegedly kicked and needed surgery on his mouth due to a teeth issue caused by the chaos. There was also an instance where Larry ran through the entrance and Punk had to chase him down the ramp before an AEW event, but that was all in good fun. Fans might get to see Larry and AJ Mendez, or AJ Lee, as she is known to the wrestling world, along CM Punk in the future. It would add an interesting dimension to his on-screen character. However, Punk is managing well as a solo performer and knows that AJ and Larry will be waiting for him when he gets home. So what's up with that? Will we ever see Larry I don't know. You might have to buy the action figures. You might have to buy the pictures. Or you might even have to buy your own Larry t-shirt if you want to get more Larry. But that's what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. Biggest news today, Shane McMahon and Tony Khan had a meeting on Monday. What will come out of that meeting? We're going to have to wait and see how it all comes together. Will Shane McMahon soon be AEW? Will he be all elite? And what will that do for the world of professional wrestling? Could this change the course? What else is going on? We're going to keep you updated as new information, new stuff comes out. Now, on the channel today, it's been busy because you have the New Japan Pro Wrestling Rebound podcast, which comes out every Wednesday on YouTube. Of course, it comes out one day prior on Patreon every Tuesday. You can catch that. And of course, Jade AI Bot is finally back on the channel with her new series, In Markdom We Trust, dropping her first episode today, where she has a lot of details and a lot of the conversation, which she's going to talk about. So you want to go check all that out. That's on the channel. You can go back to the recent weeks where we had the Wrestling Collectibles show. A new one will probably be coming up within the next week. Be ready for that. That'll be episode 3. And of course, we also have This Date in Wrestling History each and every day. We just passed the 300 mark. Counting down, it's almost to an end. It's almost a 1-year mark of This Date in Wrestling History. Go check out, learn something about This Date in Wrestling History. Plus, so much more on the channel. If you're bored with that, go over to the Patreon page. Lots of news and articles and other stuff over there. And of course, be there later today because on the Patreon, on a Patreon exclusive, breaking down SummerSlam predictions, myself, Mr. Clark, and Mr. Miguel Z, the Z-Man of the Value of Wrestling, will all be together to talk about SummerSlam, what we see coming, what we think will happen. It'll be a prediction show all about SummerSlam. We'll be back Friday with your SmackDown post-show review where we'll break down everything that went on SmackDown to get you ready for this Saturday's SummerSlam. Yes, SummerSlam is going to be Saturday, and right after SummerSlam, of course, we'll be here, the three-man team, breaking down everything that happened on SummerSlam, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to talk about it. And, of course, Sunday at 8 p.m. Pacific time, always right here on the YouTube, on the Value of Wrestling. You can find the weekly roundup where we discuss everything going on in the world of professional wrestling, where I'm sure we'll have more to discuss about Shane McMahon, CM Punk and Larry, Mercedes Moné, and all the moves. We'll talk more about what's going on and what we see coming in the future at the end of the month as we head to the end of August with All In and Bash in Berlin coming up at the end of August. What is the status going to be? SummerSlam is going to be a big deal. Make sure you tune in for all that. So much more, always right here on the channel. Make sure you like this video, hit that subscribe button, join the Value Wrestling family. We are the fastest growing wrestling in the IWC. We are here to take it by storm. We are going to change the landscape of professional wrestling. That is for sure. We just can't wait to see it. We're working with a lot of different people. We got a lot of great things that are coming our way. We can't wait till September either. When we go to Lodi Comic Con, we're going to be there live, me and Mr. Z. And, of course, we're going to have a great sit-down interview with the one and only AJ Kirsch. Can't stop advertising that. Can't wait to see everybody. AJ Kirsch. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be awesome to sit down with good old AJ, talk to him, get to know him better, and let you get to know all about AJ Kirsch, where he came from, how he got into professional wrestling, and what is going on in his life today. We're going to discuss it all. We're going to break it all down. We're going to have an awesome interview. It's going to be a fun time. Can't wait for that to come out, but make sure you stay tuned. In the meantime, lots of stuff. It's going to be a fun month. It's hot outside, and it's going to be hot in the world of professional wrestling. On the Big Time, this is the Value of Wrestling, Big Time Rants. We will see you on the next one.